this edition of Back in History, we bring to you a comprehensive history of the creation of states in Nigeria. Nigeria is currently made up of 36 states plus the Federal Capital Territory, whose status is the same with that of a state. How were these states created? Who created them? When were they created, and for what purpose? These and many more are the questions addressed in this video. Welcome to this edition of Back in History. When the British colonial administrators arrived in Nigeria, they divided the country into two protectorates, the Southern Protectorate and the Northern Protectorate. Later in 1914, the two protectorates were fused together through the process of amalgamation. At that time, Frederick Lord Lugard was the Governor General of Nigeria, representing the interest of the British Crown. In 1949, the country was divided into three regions, namely the Eastern Region, the Northern Region, and the Western Region. In other words, the three regions were created by the colonial administrators. In these three regions, there were several minority ethnic groups. These groups would later agitate for recognition as states. The regional arrangement continued up to the time of independence in 1960. In 1963, a fourth region was created and named the Midwestern Region. This region was carved out from the Western region of the country. In essence, as at 1963, Nigeria was basically divided into four regions, namely the Eastern Region, the Northern Region, the Western Region, and the Midwestern Region. In 1966, Nigeria had its first military coup. This coup was bloody. The coup was led by Major Chukwuma Kaduna Nzeugwu. Several persons were killed, including the premiers of two of the regions and the then Prime Minister of Nigeria, Alhaji Tafawa Balewa. Nzeugwu could not, however, take over the reins of power as his coup was frustrated and crushed by soldiers who were opposed to the coup. The country was then handed over to the most senior military officer at the time, General Aguiyi Ironsi. Ironsi was in office for less than 6 months and could barely do much before he was assassinated in the counter-coup of July 1966. Ironsi did not create any new region or states for Nigeria. Following the assassination of Ironsi, Yakubu Gowon was sworn in as the new military head of state of Nigeria. What Gowon did was to dissolve the four regions and replace them with states. He was thus the first person to create states in Nigeria. He created a total of 12 states, namely Kano State, Kwara State, Lagos State, Rivers State, East Central State, Benue Plateau State, Midwestern State, Northeastern State, North Central State, Northwestern State, Western State, and the Southeastern State. These states were created on 5th May 1967. In 1975, Gowon was overthrown in a bloodless military coup. Gowon was in faraway Kampala in Uganda, attending the summit of the Organization of African Unity, OAU at the time, when he was overthrown through a radio announcement by Colonel Joseph Gaba, who was Gowon's commander of the Brigade of Guards. He was advised not to return home from Uganda. A new military head of state was then announced, and his name was Murtala Ramat Mohammed. On taking over as head of states, Murtala Mohammed effected some changes in the country, one of which was the creation of additional states in 1976. He created 7 states, thereby bringing the total number of states in the country to 19. The 7 states were as follows: Anambra, Bauchi, Benue, Imo, Niger, Ogun, and Ondo states. Murtala was shortly thereafter assassinated by Lieutenant Colonel Bukasuka Dimka, and Murtala was succeeded by his deputy, Olusegun Obasanjo. Obasanjo did not create new states, and throughout his tenure, Nigeria still retained the 19 states. Obasanjo handed over power to an elected president, Alhaji Shehu Shagari, in 1979. Shagari was in office for 4 years and was overthrown in 1983 in a military coup. Shagari did not create any new states during his tenure. The person who took over from Shagari was Major General Muhammadu Buhari. He ruled from 1983 to 1985 when he was overthrown in a military coup by General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. Just like Obasanjo and Shagari, Buhari did not create any new states for Nigeria. 2 years into Babangida's administration, the process of state creation was reactivated. He started with the creation of 2 new states in 1987, namely Akwa Ibom and Katsina, thus making the total number of states in Nigeria to increase to 21. 4 years after, precisely in 1991, Babangida created 9 additional states, namely Abia, Enugu, Delta, Jigawa, Kebbi, Osun, Kogi, Taraba, and Yobe states. The number of states thus increased to 30. Babangida stepped aside in 1993 and was succeeded by Ernest Shenekon, who served as interim president of Nigeria. Ernest Shenekon was in office for less than 100 days and could barely achieve anything within the time. He did not create any new states. He was overthrown in a military coup by General Sani Abacha. Abacha reactivated the creation of states, and in October 1, 1996, he created 6 more states for the country. The states were Ebonyi, which was carved out of Abia and Enugu states; Bayelsa, which was carved out of River State; Nasarawa, which was carved out from Plateau State; Gombe, which was carved out from Bauchi State; Ekiti, which was carved out from Ondo State; and lastly, Zamfara State, which was carved out of Sokoto State. With Abacha's creation of 6 new states, the total number of states thus increased to 36. Abacha died in office in 1998 and was succeeded by General Abdul Salami Abubakar. Abubakar ruled for 1 year and handed over power to an elected president in the person of Olusegun Obasanjo. Abubakar did not create new states. Nigeria has been governed by civilian presidents since 1999 up to the time of the making of this video, and none of the civilian presidents has created new states till date, despite increased agitation from several ethnic groups in the country. In summary, the 36 states of Nigeria were all created by the military, beginning with Yakubu Gowon, who created 12 states, to Murtala Mohammed, who created 7 states, to Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, who created 2 states and later created 9 more. Abacha was the last to create states in Nigeria with the creation of 6 states. It appears that it was easier for the military presidents to create states by military fiats during the military era, unlike in the civilian administration, where the decision to create new states would need to be subjected to the approval of members of the National Assembly, which would warrant the amendment of the Constitution. Thanks for watching this edition of Back in History, and do remember to subscribe to the channel for regular notifications.